Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know, like two tortas with some snack habits. In a menudo style in direct fashion, before we get into this profile, I would like for you to hit that like and subscribe button, put your notification bells on all, so that way you're directed to the dope content that I'm bringing all week long, and I highly appreciate you. So now let's get into it. You see the thumbnail, man. Who is John Turzo? Who is Stranger from Rockwood, This guy, of course, has hit headlines because he has self-admitted to actually being the one to have stabbed, Derek Chauvin, who is actually, the ex-police officer accused of killing George Floyd, who's been incarcerated now for over a year for that crime. Now, there's a lot of speculation going into that crime, a lot of things to compile into this profile. And one of the things I want to say first and foremost is he's actually going to get a second look, man. He actually has attorneys that are looking into the process of the crime that was committed, and saying that there really was no crime committed, saying that George Floyd accidentally overdosed on fentanyl. This is the word on the curb. This is the defense. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get him retried for that. And it looks pretty good. The defense looks like he might be getting a second look on that. Now, of course, this one crime caused chaos in America. It opened up America's eyes to, of course, what people have been seeing for years, which is police brutality, excessive use of force. A lot of shit cracked off. A lot of things popped off, man. There was riots, melees. A lot of things happened in the streets. It seemed like the black community took up arms, became enraged because this individual, according to what was seen on film and in pictures, was killed. Now, I'm not the type to involve myself in the he said, she said drama as far as, whether he did it or he didn't do it. The video speaks volumes, man. I'm the type of person, if somebody is a drug addict or somebody is doing crime, that doesn't mean kill them. That doesn't mean you have the right to use excessive force. You can detain them, apprehend them, let him have his day in court, and it is what it is. Life will carry on. Maybe he was having a bad day that day. But if in fact he did succumb to, an overdose, and it wasn't necessarily this officer's involvement that caused the catastrophic injury that caused to be fatal, then I don't believe that officer should be locked up. I believe he should, be reprimanded for excessive force. He should no longer be a police officer because he's not trusted in the community, and he should just disappear. Maybe witness protection program or whatever they could do for this guy. This guy is villainized already. It's already too late. Once you're villainized, once people see you one way, it's hard to convince them of another. That's just the way it is. So let's get to John Turzo, Stranger from Rockwood. Rockwood being a pretty well-known barrio in the Westlake Central LA area. They've had a lot of enemies, man. They have numerous wars with, of course, 18th Street, Little Cycles, and just different barrios around the area. But that's how it is in Los Angeles. That's how it is, man. Every barrio doesn't necessarily get along. Everybody has their beefs. So this guy, John Turzo, what makes him stand out amongst the rest and different was he's actually not of Mexican descent. He is actually a Caucasian. He is actually a white guy, man, coming from a different ethnicity, but joined a Mexican gang. They say you're a product of your environment, and that's absolutely right. Having had a lot of homeboys from my neighborhood at the time when I was gangbanging that were black, that were white, that were Asian. I've had homeboys of different ethnicities. It didn't mean anything. If you were worthy of the cause, if you were worthy and respected in the hood, man, as a real one, then you definitely can be, embraced. The canalismo was real. So he got involved in the gang at a young age, and started to move within the ranks of the gang. Getting incarcerated in and out of prison is two different things from the streets. You could gain fame and a name and a reputation on the streets, but that doesn't necessarily follow you in prison. It might follow some of the stories and some of the things of your involvement and how you were involved in certain things will follow you as far as your reputation, but you still have to prove yourselves. Behind the walls in the California Department of Corrections is a stomping ground and a proving ground for those worthy to be elevated to certain things if you dedicate yourself to a cause. Now, this guy allegedly was involved at a very high level, worked himself through the ranks to where he was actually inducted into becoming a member of the mob, the mafia. Now, at this particular time, he was embraced and seen as a good soldado, seen as a carnal, seen as somebody who was of equal stature and standings. And with that, not everybody takes that accomplishment or that achievement in their life if that's what they're striving for. and says that that's enough. A lot of people, there's greed that goes into it. A lot of people do a lot of different things for certain reasons. Well, John Turzo was absolutely one of those individuals. He was a guy that chose to put himself in front of his people. Now, one thing that's spoken on and said, and I don't like to get into the politics of that group organization because that's their business and they don't take that lightly. But I will say, man, everybody is treated equally. No man is better than the next man. No man has more coming than the next man. Whatever you earn and whatever you gain is based on your mentality and how you push. How the pie is divvied up is totally up to those doing that thing at that time. So anyways, this guy gets out of prison after several times in and out of prison, and having a jacket, a good rap sheet on his name, and gets strictly right into the mix. But at the time that he gets out and he gets into the mix, he comes to a certain point where, there's other individuals in the same area getting a bigger piece of the pie than he is. They're making more feria, they're having it their way, and he's not liking that. So he puts a group that's loyal to him together, man, and allegedly, they started to try to oppose the other side. And that happens within any gang, man, any organization. There's a lot of inner fighting. There's a lot of bickering back and forth, a lot of not getting along because maybe you're having it better than the next man. And people don't take too kindly when someone's really getting it and another person is struggling. When you're in prison, everybody's struggling. No matter if you have feria on your books, no matter if you have commissary, you have a package every month, you're still struggling. You're struggling because you're contained within the walls and you're not able to breathe freely and get out and move like you want to. But anyways, this guy had the authority to move in on territories, man, to get his money. So he started to utilize that, the respect that he was given, his status, in a bad way. He started to abuse drugs, utilize his soldados, his gangsters, to do petty crimes for for him. Basically, he was utilizing his own people, man. He was a bandito in a way that, you can't question certain authority figures. There's people that you just can't question in the game. Those of you that know. Those of you that don't, it's just the way it is. You just have to roll with the punches. And he knew this, having been a member of a prison organization for several years. Now you say, why don't I mention this organization by name, man? I'd rather not. Let's just say that. But anyways, so he has mob ties. He's involved, allegedly. Now this guy, stranger, he gets out of jail and he gets caught up, using drugs. And he gets approached by the feds. And he gets approached by the feds, man, because he knows that he's in there's some type of conflict with his name for what he was doing on the streets, trying to move in on other people's territory. They weren't going to take that lightly. He knew that if he went back to the shoe, if he went back to prison, man, he was going to have to answer for a lot of his crimes and a lot of the things, misdeeds he was doing. That's how it is. You can never get away from your past. You're always going to get caught up. There's karma. There's always someone you have to answer to. So I don't think he wanted to answer to anyone. I believe that wholeheartedly, man, this individual felt he was above that and beyond that. He was going to continue to do his thing. He was going to be dirty in the game. So what he did was he got approached by the feds and started to work hand in hand with them and became a confidential informant, became a federal informant. And there's a lot of guys that get approached in a certain manner. And for one reason or another, usually it's for self-gratification or greed, or because they know they're in bad standings anyways and they're on the chopping block, that they decide that they want to work with the federal government, or they decide they want to change their ways and they want to assist in any way they can to minimize the crime in their area. Whatever the case may be, man, they're labeled snitches, rats, whatever name you want to put on them, that's what they got coming. So now he starts to work hand in hand with the feds, but he's still in the mix. Now, usually these undercover informants that are in the mix continue to commit crime. And that's exactly what this guy was doing. He was still pushing like he was a heavyweight. He still was pushing and all up in the mix, hanging out with certain guys at the same time, recording their conversations at the same time, getting him caught up in various crimes. Now, as he continued to commit these crimes, his handlers, which is the federal government, decided to let him know, he was responsible for every action that he took while he was being monitored by them, why his handlers couldn't be there all the time. He still was not to commit crime. He still involved himself in various crimes, drug dealings, petty crimes, attempted murders or plots, against another group. Eventually he gets caught up. Eventually enough is enough. And they kick him out of the witness. Basically they kick him out of being a fucking Fed informant. They're saying, you're no longer under our umbrella. That's not going to fly. You're committing too much crime. Now you say to yourself, and I know I said it to myself, if they knew he was doing all these various crimes at these times, why didn't they shut down shop earlier? Feds are going to let you fucking grab your own rope, Holmes, and make it longer. They're going to let you hang yourself. You know, if you choose to be out there and wiggle, and I understand sometimes you're in certain situations, and I guess Stranger was in a situation where he was on the spot and he felt he had to do what he had to do, and that was his defense, you know. Ultimately, he ends up getting locked up for, attempted murder, for committing all these different acts. He gets caught up and he gets 30 years. Now, in the meantime, in between time, they use his testimony, they use his wiretaps, everything that he did while a federal informant to convict over 40 members and associates of a prison organization, right? And now he's done. It's a wrap, man. There is no coming back from that. Now you're labeled and tagged, of course, as a turncoat, a snitch, a coward. And that's it. Okay, so these individuals, he gets put on a lista, of course. He's hard candy. He's definitely not going to be able to walk them LA streets anymore, or any facility that he hits that is active. He's going to be gotten at in a vicious fashion. That's just part of the game. You know what you sign up for, man. He knew, I'm for sure at the time that he was, doing this, working with the feds, man, that he was at, a crossroads in his life where he was doing no good, but he continued on for his own greedy ways, his own self-gratification, his own, drug habit that he had. So comes to pass that he cancels out 40 members. He cancels out all these associates. And he moves on. And Stranger's name is spoken on. I've seen content on YouTube about this man. And I think what stood out amongst a lot of the different members was that he was actually of Caucasian descent. He wasn't Mexican. So that right there in itself, man, made him different from many others. It makes you not one of a kind, but at the same time, there's only a handful of these guys. So now his name gets spoken on YouTube. I seen a channel where they talked about his history. And then that was it. He kind of disappeared. Well, what happened was he ended up picking up 30 years in the feds. Now, of course, he can't be placed in certain facilities. He couldn't be placed in general population yards because at the same time, his dirt that's on his name, his jacket, everybody knows who he is. And it was only a matter of time before he would be caught up. But that didn't mean his ways of thinking, and that didn't mean the way he carried himself and moved changed. Yes, he did do a cowardice act by telling, but at the same time, this guy was raised a certain way in a very vicious neighborhood and played to the fullest. He was one of those guys, from everything that I've seen and heard that, he was always in the mix, man. He was always pumping shit up. He was always ready and always about that action. So now Stranger's doing his 30 years. I don't know what type of deal he got to slice it and dice it, but from what I'm hearing, before he stabbed Derek Chauvin, I won't say allegedly anymore because he's self-admitted, but before he stabbed this former officer, he actually was down to 3 years. Now, here's my theory, just my theory. You can take it for what you will. And let's see if who agrees. Getting very close to getting out, man, having that much dirt and smut on your name, no longer being under the umbrella of the federal government. I don't think this guy would have been granted witness protection. So meaning he'd be on his own, man, not having really nowhere to go. If you go with certain family members, I'm sure they're being scrutinized. I'm sure it was only a matter of time before he knew his filth and his dirt would catch up to him. He might have caught this case, man, or decided to act out just based upon that, man, not wanting to get out, not wanting to, see them streets because he knew what was waiting for him. Sometimes, and I've seen it many times, when someone has nothing on the streets, man, they'll just stay in prison. They'll just catch case after case. They get 3 hots in a cot. They're right there posted up. Why? Why go hit the streets where you're especially going to be killed, or someone's going to get at you quite aggressively because of your past? The best move and probably the smartest move would be for him to stay in there. When you have nothing on the streets, man, you're missing nothing. So anyways, that's one theory, that maybe he was getting close to the gate. I've heard he had 3 years. Like I said, I don't know how you go from 30 to 3. He's been locked up for quite a while. And you get certain time cuts or whatever, man. In the feds, I heard you do day for day. But, whatever deal he worked out. He was in this basically medium minimum facility, a PC facility, man, which is the USP in Tucson, Arizona. And, there's going to be a lot of different characters around. It's basically an SNY yard for the feds. There's going to be guys that are in there for they're informants, or they told, or they're actively telling, or they have bad cases, or because of their notoriety, whatever the case may be. This is where Derek Chauvin was, and he was there. So somewhere along the line, he was able to catch up with Derek Chauvin in the law library. Now, according to his own words, a stranger from Rockwood had decided a month prior, started to take an interest in Derek Chauvin and felt that he was going to get that trophy, that he was going, him being a trophy himself, he figured Derek Chauvin was more of a trophy. And I don't know, his excuse was that he did it on Black Friday, man. He actually stabbed this guy 22 times on Black Friday because it symbolized the Black Lives Movement. I don't know the reasoning behind that. What it looks like to me, this is just me, I'm thinking maybe someone put him up to it. Allegedly, maybe, Derek Chauvin having this second look, this second chance at a breath of fresh air, man, would stir controversy on the streets. What do you think? I'm thinking, if a man that's accused of killing a black person, a black man, and it caused so much chaos and turmoil in the streets, there was a lot of feria, man, lost on this. It caused chaos. This man gets out, man. We seen what happened in the Rodney King riots back in the days. The black community is not going to take too kindly to that. Whether that guy is liable, guilty or not, people have already prejudged him. It is what it is, man. He's guilty. He's convicted. That's it. But when he gets a second look and get backs, if he was to do that, it would just cause a lot of bitterness in the black community, the brown community. A lot of people that don't like, what he's basically the symbolization of would trip, gente. And that's just it. So maybe someone put him up to it. Maybe someone felt that Derek Chauvin was better off, gone. Maybe his get backs wouldn't be real. And maybe, that would kill two birds with one stone. Maybe a stranger would be able to, get that extra time that he wanted, plus the notoriety, or maybe save face and show people that he still got it. Whatever the case may be, man, ultimately he has admitted guilt. This type of man doesn't change. These type of individuals, man, maybe somewhere along the line as he gets a little bit older, he'll think about all the things he's done, relive his past. I'm sure he's done it many times, and figure out where he went wrong. Now, I know some people say, well, he's a hero. He got out of the gangs, man. He changed his life. He changed his ways. There's a difference between telling on these people, man, for your own greedy ways and to get up out of time. And there's a difference between changing your life and just distancing yourself. There's a lot of guys that walk away, drop out, cut ties with their former group, organization, or gang, and don't throw anyone under the bus or tell on them. They just disappear or walk away, man. That's commendable and respectable. If they don't want to be no longer part of that, that's up to them as a man. But someone who goes out, not on his shield, but basically testifies and tells on everyone, man, that's a different type of person. I understand, you'll never know the situation until you're backed in that corner and you have to do that. So I don't speak ill upon those individuals. I'm not going to disrespect them by calling them a rat or a snitch. Those are labels already given by society, man. But I will say, from everything I've seen, it looked like John Stranger Turzo definitely was a product of being manipulated by the powers that may be into utilizing him and him working hand in hand with them because he was scared to face his demise. So now, to be years later, to be stabbing someone else, it just doesn't, it seems like there's more to it. It seems like, things like this, there's always a bigger entity in the background. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. There's always the Wizard of Oz back there pulling strings, the puppet master, man. I can't say too much because I don't know too much. These are just my theories. This is just what I'm thinking about. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not a dummy either. I see what it is. Anyways, man, John Stranger Turzo is definitely going to pick up more time. Will he face the death penalty? Absolutely not. It was an attempted murder. It didn't work out for him. He said that, he had plotted and planned this. Let me scratch my back. My shit itches. Talking about the vato. He said, ultimately, he tried and it didn't work out. The symbolization of Black Friday coinciding with the Black Lives Matter, man. I don't see that correlation. I see him, he took an opportunity and it is what it is, As far as involving himself, saying that the black hand of the mob, man, was also a symbol in this. He is no longer part of that life. He is no longer representing them. So they had nothing to do with this. And I'm sure they don't want their name thrown in that mix. Anyways, with that being said, man, that's strong. The profile of John Stranger Turzo, I can get more in depth and deeper. He was a former federal informant, turned bad both ways, kicked out of being a Fed informant, kicked out, or basically turned his back on his gente And that's just what it is. Anyways, with that being said, man, I hope that give you a little bit more information to who this guy is and why he did what he did. Again, man, we don't know, but let me know what you think. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Enjoy your weekend, man, and have a great day. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Hey, if he's going to be the head that wears the crown, I'm going to continue to strive and struggle and struggle and strive for what I truly believe in, and that's bringing you guys the best possible content I can. Bang, bang. There it is.